Rams house, welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report, presented as always by Prize Picks. Guys, on today's show, I want to talk about some winners and some losers from the preseason opening win over the Kansas City Chiefs, a 20-12 win for your Los Angeles Rams on the road in Kansas City. We're going to talk about Ty Simpson. Of course, we're going to talk about Ty Simpson. Kind of stole the show in a lot of ways, at least offensively in this game. Been dominating a national conversation, even. I think you could say a lot of people are talking about our guy. So we'll definitely talk about him. But there's a number of other guys on this Rams roster that I want to make sure don't go overlooked just because of how good Ty Simpson is and was yesterday. All right, so we're going to talk about everybody. We're going to try to encompass the full thing because I think even we, in our initial takeaways yesterday, got a little wrapped up in the Ty Simpson moment. I mean, it's hard not to. He looked really good. And of course, we're going to start with him. And I do want to just talk a little bit more about it because how could you not? He goes out there, he completes 84% of his passes for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did everything you could have asked for him to. I think the one throw that I was like, man, I think he probably wants that one back. And he completed it. It was a third down and he threw short of the sticks. I cannot remember who caught the pass. I think it might have been Mark Redmond. It was like 2 yards short of the sticks, and we got to throw beyond the sticks on third down in that situation. But that's a rookie mistake. That's something that's going to happen. But outside of that, he seemed to get better throughout the game. He seemed to see the field incredibly well. He seemed like the moment was never too big for Ty Simpson. There was never any sign of concern. He was commanding the huddle. He looked like a leader out there. It looked like it looked like a veteran operating the offense. You know what I mean? Like there was no sign outside of that one throw, which was short of the sticks, of him really being a rookie. He operated well in the red zone. The hardest thing to do in the NFL as a quarterback, finish a drive in the red zone. He does it twice. First drive, bad snap, gets away from him. Doesn't panic. He's able to get rid of that football. You know what I mean? Like these are moments where I think other rookie quarterbacks, you get that bad snap, you panic, that becomes a turnover. You get that bad snap, you panic, that becomes a sack for a loss of 20. Not him. He chucks that out of bounds. He gets rid of that football. He saves his center in that moment. Turns it from, obviously it's a negative play. It's not a negative play, but it's a neutral play at the end of the day. We go again on third down. And of course, that drive, we weren't able to salvage that. But the fact that we had a chance to salvage that speaks to Ty Simpson, his cool in that moment. And of course, it is worth noting he did it against backups. Of course, it's worth noting he did it against backups. The Kansas City Chiefs were playing backups for a large portion of that game. Absolutely true. However, he was out there with backups. I think that's also important to note. He was playing with backups. Quarterback is a position that relies largely on the guys around you. And he was elevating talent out there. I really feel like he was. He made other guys look good. He was making plays. Other guys were making plays for him. But the offense was operating incredibly efficiently under Ty Simpson. And that's exactly what you saw in his best moments at Alabama. Incredibly efficient operation. That's why the Rams went out and drafted him. That is what the Rams really fell in love with Ty Simpson. But that is going to do it on number 15 for now. We're going to talk a lot more about him in the future, I promise. I think he's going to keep balling out in the preseason. I think he's going to ball out in joint practice against the Saints this week in just a couple of days, which of course we will be covering that before we get to the game. I think you earn more opportunities in that one with this performance in the preseason. But you know what? We are going to talk about him a little bit more after we give our shout out to Prize Picks because we got to talk about the QB competition. But we'll talk about that in the context of one of our losers on today's show, which we'll get to in 1 second. But first, I got to let you guys know about the good people over at Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. Guys, now that football action is back, it is the perfect time to get going on America's #1 sports picks app. If you've never played with Prize Picks before, it is as easy as it's ever been to get in on daily fantasy action. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players and their player stat projections, and you are setting your lineup. For example, this was my lineup for yesterday. We came so close, guys. So close. All the Rams helped us out. But we had to throw a Kansas City Chief in there, and Cyrus Allen did not deliver. Cyrus Allen did not deliver the receiving yards that we needed, but that's okay because it was a bonus lineup, which Prize Picks offers all the time. They're always offering sweet things like that for their users. It's one of the reasons they're my favorite way to play daily fantasy. And I really encourage you guys to join me on the Prize Picks app. And if you are a brand new user, make sure you take advantage of their new user offer. Guys, when you sign up for Prize Picks and play your first $5 lineup, you can get $150 in bonus lineups if you win. That is if you sign up with code HMA, guys. That's $150 in bonus lineups if you win when you sign up with code HMA. That's right. PrizePicks just switched up their offers. So there's no better time to join, lock in, and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Okay. Thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. We always appreciate them. Let's talk a little bit more about some other winners, and then we'll come back around for some more Ty Simpson discussion when we get to our loser section of today's video. But next, I want to talk about Dean Connors. So I got to give a shout out here to my guy, Anthony, from the SoFire podcast, the SoFire Spotlight. He was telling me when I went on there, watch out for Dean Connors. He was asking me about Dean Connors. He was really talking a lot about Dean Connors. And I'm not going to lie, Dean Connors, I knew about him, the UDFA out of Houston, but I hadn't heard a ton out of training camp. It didn't seem like he was getting a ton of opportunities. And I think that's something that maybe a lot of people don't really understand about NFL training camp is sometimes, like, if you're deep enough on the depth chart, you may go and literally not get a single rep in practice. And that's not that uncommon. And that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes for guys on that level of the depth chart. And that seemed to be what I was hearing around Dean Connors, is he just wasn't getting a lot of opportunities in training camp yet, but he got some opportunities in the preseason, and he did a lot with those opportunities. 6 carries for 22 yards. He had 4 catches for 29 yards, and both of Ty Simpson's passing touchdowns went to Dean Connors. I incorrectly, during our stream, thought he was Mark Redman when he caught that. I corrected myself pretty quickly. Everyone of my producers were like, that's not Mark Redman, that's Dean Connors. I had a couple of beers at that point, and that 33 looked like an 83 to me. So I am sorry, Dean Connors, but he was balling out during yesterday's game. And showing a lot of versatility, showing a lot of, I think, the traits that help you make this roster if you're in Dean Connors' position. Maybe it doesn't become like as a year one contributor, but it's something to make him hold on, even if it's on the practice squad. And we'll get to it, but bad news for some of these other guys in this running back room that are fighting for spots. I thought Jordan Waters looked really good yesterday. He was given opportunity to get some work on the ground. He ended up leading the team in rushing. But we're going to talk about the other cat in that running back room that had an opportunity that I was really hoping would show out and just didn't really hit that bar a little bit later on today's show. But next, I want to talk about someone else who played quite well, Max Klare. I liked what we saw from Max Klare. And I think, I've seen some people actually have him on their losers list because they're like, oh, he got so much work in the preseason. There's just no chance that Max Klare is going to have a major role in year one. And maybe that is true. But I think at the end of the day, you got to think about like the depth that we have at the tight end room. And even if Max Klare doesn't have a huge role in year one, that doesn't mean it was a bad pick. That just means he's going to have a big role down the line because we know this tight end room is evolving after this season. We know there's a lot of guys who are on expiring contracts, and that could be a pick that's made with the future in mind. And I think in this first game, just like with Ty Simpson, which is another pick that was made with the future in mind, he goes out and shows, hey, the future looks really bright. I think Max Klare showed that as well. Their connection is clearly already there. He was Ty's safety valve. Every time Ty needed to get rid of the football, where was he looking? He was looking for 86. He was like, oh, where's 86? I got to find him. He almost had a touchdown. Jaden Hicks makes a great play to break that pass up in the end zone. I think it was Jaden Hicks off the top of my head. Who flew over and broke that one up. Would love to see Klare go attack that football just a little bit more. I think it comes down with that ball. I think he can outmuscle Jaden Hicks in the air and win for that ball. His bigger body, you got to use it, and kind of like shield and protect, come down with that football, win in the red zone. But outside of that, I mean, it was a great game for Max Klare. Not like a ton of efficiency, but the work that he got was important work. He was consistently, it felt like every time he was catching the ball, and it wasn't the reality of this, but it felt like every time he was catching the ball, he was moving the chains. You know what I mean? It was a valuable catch. It was a catch that helped Ty Simpson get out of danger. It was a catch that helped generate a positive play when we could have had a negative one. And that felt like the connection between Ty Simpson and Max Klare's development is already there, because, it's like some of this stuff was off script. Some of this stuff was not like entirely the design of the play, but they're already kind of working in that mold already. And I like to see that, because, again, that shows chemistry is developing in practice between the two of those guys. Next up, we talked about a couple guys on the offensive side. I want to flip over to the defensive side, and I want to talk about Nick Andersen. Nick Andersen, man, he played with his hair on fire. It feels like every year there is a safety in the preseason, they go off. And I think this year it's Nick Andersen. And he's, it's going to be a tough room to make the roster in at the end of the day. Tough room to become like an immediate contributor in, or even tougher room to become an immediate contributor in. Starters are obviously set, but this is the kind of play you want on special teams. And I think that is Nick Andersen's path to making this roster, is becoming kind of a special teams contributor, a gunner on special teams, someone who just is willing to hit people and play with his hair on fire. He comes away with 9 tackles in this one, 4 solo tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 pass breakups. Everywhere. He was flying all over the field. It felt like, and I was calling that game, it just felt like every play. Oh, there's 45 again. There's 45 again, making another play. There's 45 hitting somebody again. There's 45 flying around, breaking up another pass. It was fun to watch him, but I think that's something you need as far as special teams goes, because we'll talk about it a little bit later, but punt coverage didn't look great at times, and tackling in general, outside of him and a couple other guys, was a weak point for this Rams team. And that is going to transition us into losers pretty well. I want to start with Jarquez Hunter. I kind of hinted at him earlier. I've kind of foreshadowed all of our losers at this point, just in the way they connect to some of our winners. But Jarquez Hunter, I think, is ultimately a loser from this game. I just didn't really have the moment, it just didn't click for Jarquez Hunter in this one. His longest run was 11 yards, and he got opportunities to have an impact in this one. Did not average more than 4 yards per carry. I just would have liked to see him be more impactful in these situations, be more explosive with some of these carries. I felt like Dean Connors and even Jordan Waters both offered more explosiveness to this run game when they were given opportunities than Jarquez Hunter did. And that's disappointing, because I know a lot of Rams fans, myself included, wanted to see this happen for Jarquez Hunter, and this one be his opportunity to kind of click a little bit and earn more reps in the offense this year. But it absolutely did not happen for him in week 1. It's not a race that's done. You know what I mean? We're still running this race for a couple more weeks to figure out who's going to make this final roster. But I think it's worth saying that Jarquez Hunter, and I felt this way for a little while, that it might end up going down this road, he's on the roster bubble. I think you got to be honest with yourself at this point, that there is a serious chance that he gets cut for a Jordan Waters, that he gets cut for a Dean Connors. If Dean Connors can keep going out and showing versatility like that, can keep going out and making plays like that, I don't know why you would keep Jarquez Hunter over Dean Connors. At the end of the day, I don't know why you would. I would keep Dean Connors if they keep making plays like that. But that's the reality we're getting to for a Jarquez Hunter at this point. And that's dismaying given the draft value that was spent on him just last season. Next, as far as losers go, gotta pull up my list here. Oh, Stetson Bennett. Yes, Stetson Bennett. All right. Okay. Let's circle back to Ty Simpson here. I want to talk about Stetson in the context that not necessarily I think Stetson was bad, because I don't think he was bad in the opportunities he got. He was also facing the Kansas City Chiefs starters with backups in. It's worth noting. But Ty looked a lot better. I think just undeniably. Ty Simpson looked much, much better than Stetson Bennett did. He looked much more in command of the offense. I think you could argue that game from Ty Simpson was better than any game we've seen from Stetson Bennett in the preseason, or just as good as any game we've seen from Stetson Bennett in the preseason. And I think that matters given he's coming off of, just 15 games of college experience. He has less than a calendar year of experience as a Ram. He was drafted in April. He hasn't fully developed in the way I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. I just don't think Stetson in this moment is where I expected him to be. I expected Stetson to look much more composed, to look much more confident based off the things we've heard. And I didn't see that. You know what I mean? I saw arguably the guy we've seen the last couple of preseasons. I didn't feel like there was a lot of this tremendous growth that Sean McVay has talked about, at least not in the first opportunity. I don't know if we're going to see Stetson again through the rest of this preseason. I don't know where they feel about that. We might see Stetson Bennett more now with Ty Simpson playing as well as he did. That's another road that this could go down. If I'm Sean McVay, that's probably the road I take this down. I want to see more of Stetson because of how good Ty looked. I'm worried at this point, or not worried, I guess. It's a good problem to have. But I'm opening this QB competition up a lot more after what Ty did. And that's, of course, bad news for Stetson Bennett. So even though he didn't necessarily play poorly, I just don't think he showed anywhere near what Ty did. And I think you have to acknowledge that if you're this Rams coaching staff, that there's a chance here that Ty Simpson gives you the best chance to win football games if anything was to happen to Matthew Stafford this season. Obviously, I know we don't want to think about that, but that's the reality of what you've got to prepare for as this Rams coaching staff. Next, Desjuan Johnson. And this one's weird because, he got a sack. He played well. He was consistently, felt like he was around the quarterback a little bit. Probably came away with a few pressures. I haven't seen the pressure numbers yet. However, the sack that he got was in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. And I was shocked that he was on the field in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. Desjuan Johnson last year was a rotational edge rusher for this team. He played a good deal of snaps. That's not a guy who plays in the fourth quarter for Sean McVay in preseason games. So that alone tells you, okay, they may have a shifting view of Desjuan Johnson's role on the roster this season, of what his, value is going to be, I guess. It sounds cold, to this rotation at the end of the day. How many snaps is he ultimately going to get in this rotation? Because Sean McVay just doesn't use guys who are going to play a lot in the preseason. So that does feel like a notable thing to see Johnson out there that deep in the preseason. I expected maybe see him a little bit, but I did not expect that he would be out there on the field in the fourth quarter of this game. And I do think that's worth taking note of, because, we just know Sean McVay doesn't do that with his guys. The last thing I want to talk about as far as losers or losing operations go, I guess the other ones are single losers. This one's just a losing operation. God, the tackling was not good. Tackling was just bad. A lot of missed tackles on defense. Run defense wasn't good all game long. 28 carries for 120 plus yards. They averaged over almost 5 yards a carry against us. I don't love to see that. Again, it is the backups. But punt coverage tackling was also bad. 4 punt returns for 42 yards, 20-yard punt return as well. Would like to see these guys. We got to get people on the ground more. I want to see more people playing like Nick Andersen. You know what I mean? Playing with that hair on fire attitude, trying to take people's heads off on defense. And I didn't feel like I saw enough of that out of our defense in general, especially when it came to defending the run, and a little bit concerningly so on special teams as well. And again, obviously you're dealing with backups across the board. So of course that's going to have an impact on it. But I think it's worth noting tackling just wasn't as good as it could have been. Emmett Johnson able to have a really good game against us. I feel like the Chiefs overall had a really good game running the football against us. And Nico Remigio as a returner also had a pretty solid outing. At the end of the day, though, I think it was a great game for this Rams team. Of course, there's things to clean up, but I think you hang your hat on what you did as an offense with Ty Simpson in overall. 21 to 25, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, with multiple scoring drives to pull away in this game and win it. And of course, outcomes don't really matter in preseason games, but execution does. And the execution from the offense when Ty Simpson was in was damn good. Let me know, guys. I want to hear your grades for Ty Simpson's performance. Give me a grade on a scale of A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know, how would you grade number 15 in his preseason debut? And that is going to round it out for today's episode of the Rams Report. As always, thanks for tuning in.